Good evening. Coming up on 8:47 here, I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis. Want to update you on the severe warnings that have now crossed the Indiana-Illinois state line and are now starting to move into the state. The severe line of storms that we've been tracking is just over the state line. It's moving through Danville right now, but we do expect that National Weather Service would issue severe thunderstorm warnings, and they have done so. Let's get you updated on the first warning of the day, at least in Indiana, that we're talking about. This is going to be a severe thunderstorm warning. Winds currently estimated to be 60 miles per hour as this crosses the state line. Hail size hasn't been as much of a concern, but this is going to include Fountain, Park, Vermilion, and Warren County, and this is going to go until 9:30 p.m. This is the line we're talking about right here. Now, if I put this into play mode here, you'll be able to see there's the line as it races east. Now, the big concern has also been that there have been a couple of tornado warnings with this once it was closer to, say, Champaign. Thankfully, we're not seeing that at the moment, but this does still have some really gusty winds, and it's also the northern end of this may have a little bit more spin to it because of the nature of the bow of this line that's continuing to push to the east at about 50 miles per hour. Given that, let's go ahead and stop the radar. Let's do a couple of things for you. First of all, let's put a track on this just to show you this system moving east at about 50 miles per hour. This is the line that we're going to be tracking, pushing to the east at about 50 or so. It's slowed down just a bit from the 60 that we saw earlier. That's going to put it near Kent 7 minutes. It's going to put it near Highland at 22 minutes. This is going to put it into Clinton in 27 minutes or so. Again, this is racing to the east, and it does have some lightning with it. Sean and I were just talking about the lightning that comes along with it. There hasn't been a whole lot of lightning, but there's been just enough that we've been watching it, and you'll see some of these live lightning strikes. Currently 52 that you see on the screen currently. Most of the lightning strikes are with the line as it's been pushing east, but this hasn't been a real lightning generating storm, so don't expect to necessarily see this flashing off in the distance. We do expect, though, that it's going to be producing some heavy rain and some gusty winds. Let's do a couple of things. First of all, let's go here to Covington, where we do have one of our NDOT cameras. We'll take you there. We do have one NDOT camera there that should be right at Covington. We'll remove that from the screen. I'll step out of the way. You can see some of the trucks still going on by. We are looking northbound, so I believe we are going to be seeing the storm would be behind us or to our left, given this camera angle from the DOT. Still watching the rain coming down for sure, but not necessarily in that line segment or that line of storms currently. Where does the storm go from here? Well, you can see several severe thunderstorm warnings. Also, by the way, we have a tornado warning that's just farther to the south. And a couple of things to note here as we go through our coverage tonight. And I'll probably be saying this a lot, but the severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued right now, this is a base severe thunderstorm warning. Wind gusts as high as 58 miles per hour or higher. This is kind of the standard severe thunderstorm warning that we've always been talking about. National Weather Service has changed some of the wording up. So a couple of things that you may also notice, this darker outline that you see puts this tornado possible wording in when the National Weather Service thinks that, yeah, there's a little bit of spin in the atmosphere and we need to watch this one because there could be a spin up. That's the warning that you have a little bit farther behind this warning. It was the one that actually this warning came out of. And then farther to the south here, there's a tornado warning. This one is just observed. This is not one that is actually confirmed. This is just off the screen. In fact, it may not let me query it there to the bottom, but that's one we're going to be watching because as it continues moving to the east, we may have warnings come out for Terre Haute. We expect that a good portion of the viewing area at some point is going to end up going under at least a severe thunderstorm warning as that line moves through, and possibly even a few tornado warnings that fire off later this evening. And you'll be able to see, once I put the reflectivity on, you'll be able to see that line that really stretches all the way down, and it's actually getting out of the radar range a little bit. As I move the radar, you'll be able to see the line extending all the way down to the western edge of Kentucky. Where this bows out a little bit right here, right as it's crossing the state line, that's where it's likely producing some of the gustiest of the winds right now. Although given the Weather Service's wording on that, with just the base wording, 60 mile per hour winds, we do think that it's on the lower inside. But of course, as that changes, we'll continue to watch it. New tornado watch has been issued by the National Weather Service within the last 30 minutes or so. So this is some new information. This watch is going to go until 3 a.m., although there are the eastern counties that are not under that tornado watch. So either it will be sometime later this evening as this line approaches the eastern part of the state that they'll end up going under a tornado watch, or the system will weaken enough that they don't have to continue issuing those tornado watches or severe thunderstorm watches. There's the line. And again, this bowing segment, this is likely where some very strong gusty winds. And by the way, meteorologist Sean Ash is standing by. So Sean, if you see anything, just let me know, just call it out. And I'll see if I could either get it on the screen or we'll hop over to your computer just to show you. Buddy. A couple of things I am watching here with some of the, there's a new tornado warning that just popped up south and west of Terre Haute. So this is not for on air just yet, but this is one of the things that we'll be watching, that new tornado warning just to the south of Terre Haute, because that line is going to continue marching to the east, and that rotation will continue to move, maybe crossing the state line. We think that we'll probably end up with a few of those before the night is all over. Let's do a couple things here. First of all, let's move the map and maybe get in a little bit closer to where we see those really gusty winds. I do want to zoom in just a bit to get you in where the gustiest of the winds are currently. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, and I'll remove the toolbar so you can get a good look at this. This is where the winds are pushing towards the radar. We are a little bit higher in the atmosphere than we'd like to be. Most of the strongest winds may be right near the surface, so we may not be getting the best view of this storm because it's a little bit farther out. Typically when they're over into Illinois or right over the state line, we don't have the best view. Radar here is only estimating maybe 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, but we think there's a 47 mile per hour wind gust that's popped up on the screen. These will probably go up as it gets closer. That's not necessarily an indication that the system is strengthening. It's that we're scanning the lower and lower parts of the system as it gets a little bit closer. So something to keep in mind. We'll probably be using that a lot this evening with some of the storms as they roll on by. A little bit of a wider view here. We'll take you back to our larger view, and I'll put the radar back on so you can see some of the showers and storms that are happening just to our west are not part of that line. So there are some heavier areas of some rain, Greencastle up to say Union, but the severe thunderstorm warning itself is anywhere from Highland here, which is just to the west of, say, south and west of Petersburg, all the way up to really almost Chicago. In fact, that line of severe thunderstorm warnings does go almost all the way to Chicago. It's now passed through Chicagoland at the moment, where unfortunately they're still dealing with damage from the storms that we had earlier this week. The one thing to keep in mind, the difference between this system and what we saw last week with the very strong storm, the deadly tornado that went through the northern part of the state, is that this system is going to be much less hail involved. There were some huge hailstones that were reported with some of the tornadoes and hail and severe thunderstorm warnings that went through the northern part of the state. Here's a quick look at some of the warnings that we have in place right now. A couple of tornado warnings are still in play. This is the one south and west of Terre Haute right here. There's also another just to the south and east of Effingham, Illinois. Also a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, and these currently have the tornado possible tag to them, and I can tell that because they have a little bit of a darker outline, and I'll be noticing that as time goes on. The severe thunderstorm warning that we have right there, that one does not have the tagging on it. I'll get in a little bit closer to show you what I'm talking about while we still have a little bit of time. Unfortunately, this one is in a little bit of an area that the radar doesn't give us the best view of it, so as it gets a little bit closer, we'll be able to see the new information that comes on. I'm trying to get my camera tool so we can just move this back over. I noticed they updated some of the wording here. So one of the things that they did put on there is they did just add the tornado possible wording to that severe thunderstorm as it pushes into, say, Petersburg. In fact, let me go ahead and do a couple of things here. First thing I want to do is I just want to take off the auto warn, and I'm going to try to just query this so we can get all of the counties and all of the information that's involved here. So they're still at 60 miles per hour for the maximum sustained winds. The one thing they've added here is they've added the tornado possible wording, meaning severe thunderstorm conditions are expected, but tornado is certainly possible, a quick little spin up. And Sean, one of the things meteorologist Sean Ash and I were talking about is we think that these spin-ups today are likely going to be on the quick side because the system is moving so much more quickly with 60 mile per hour eastward flow here. Fountain, Park, Vermilion, Warren County, that's going to go until 9:30 p.m. And again,
rotation's just about to cross over 70 toward Covington.
Okay, and that was, let me actually go to that cam first because I know you put that on the Covington camera just to show it very quickly. So this is the camera that we're talking about here. We'll look at that for just a moment here. We'll see if the winds are going to pick up.
Yeah, but the radar velocities, there's a little bit of a couplet there that's just about to cross over 74, very near that camera on its northeastern journey. So this is what we'll be seeing for the better part of the night, my friend. They'll be quick, but they're going to be around. So as you mentioned, it's going to be a combination of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. And these tornado warnings, these areas of rotation, can be pretty quick here. So this is, let me just circle this. This is what we'll be looking for tonight, right in here. These little quick areas of green and red next to each other. I will tell you in terms of the shear rate product, the rotation detector, now we're pretty young into this, this event, but that's as strong as we've seen in the state. We'll see if that continues to grow, but that is a product that we'll use because it can kind of clean up some of the wind velocity data as this thing moves through, and it's going to be moving through quickly. We're talking about between now and 1 in the morning. So this won't, even though the tornado watch goes until 3, we believe that wind threat's going to be well over before then, partner.
Yeah, and I noticed a new scan coming in on my computer here. The one thing I'm not seeing just yet, Sean, is that the rotation, or at least this couplet, hasn't tightening up just yet. It's very, very broad, and that really just picking up the line, the bend in that line. But one of the things I've been doing, Sean, is we can see it from the Indiana radar, but also if we go over to the Illinois radar, I don't see quite as strong a signature there, so I can kind of flip back and forth. Unfortunately, this cell is sitting right in kind of an area where the radars don't get the best view of it. The next closest radar is in central Illinois. The next closest radar to the east is in central Indiana. So it is a little bit in a bit of a hole. And what Sean is talking about is right in there. And that shear product that he had really illustrates it. The other thing I'm noticing is that it appears that this is really pushing out ahead of even the line down to the south. So we may start to see this part of the severe thunderstorm warning ramp up a little bit, especially if we start to get indications that those winds are ramping up as this gets a little bit closer to Indianapolis. And the reason I'm saying Indianapolis is because that's where the radar is located. We'll be able to get a good view of it. A couple of things that they've updated here. In fact, let me get in a little bit closer just so we can see that. I just want to get into where that first severe thunderstorm warning has now moved into the state. And the reason why is because this one does have the tornado possible wording with it that is now for Warren County, for Vermilion County, for Park County as well, and pushing to the east at about 50 miles per hour. Because of that, as I kind of take a little bit of a zoom back, because I just want to show you where it is in relation to Indy. There's some scattered showers out ahead of this, but we still have some time before this moves through. In fact, let me just show you where it is. Moves into Indiana. In fact, it looks like this part of the line is going to move a little farther to the north of Indianapolis. There you see the storm now rolling right into Covington. And we will go back to that camera here in just a moment. But there you can see the bow that we're talking about with this. Let me do a couple of things here. Let me go back to velocity just to see how that signature looks. We'll remove this just so we can get a better look at it. We're also, I think, Sean, going to get into a situation where if it moves north of Indy as opposed to moving right at Indy, we won't get the best sampling of the data here. Some of these returns may start to tick up a little bit. In fact, some of these areas to the north, we may be picking up some of the winds in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. I'm going to plot some of these on the screen, but I have a feeling they're going to be a little bit overestimated. You're going to see 50 miles per hour there. I think that's just the standard wind speed that we've seen throughout the area today. What I'm going to be watching is the southern end of this part of the storm just to see if there's any 60 mile per hour gusts that start to show up. It's still a little high in the atmosphere sampling the storm that's rolling through Covington currently, but there's enough there that we can definitely see where the system is. What we don't want to see is these areas of really bright reds and really bright greens start to get closer together. If that happens, we may start to see this tighten up a little bit. The circulation would tighten up a bit. And then unfortunately, we'd have to start talking about some tornado warnings that the National Weather Service would issue. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. A little bit of noise in the data here also south of there, Sean. I don't know if you noticed that on the south end of that severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like we may be starting to get a little bit of maybe some ramp up there. I can't tell if that's noise or if that's just a little bit of it's hard to see there on that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything other than what's near west of Petersburg.
Okay.
I have been monitoring, and I've been using the radar out of Evansville, the Paducah office, because I'm looking at the southern end of the line, and this is what'll be I hate to use the word frustrating, but it is going to be one of these situations. So I'm going to zoom in here. And if you see how close the red and green are next to each other, and then along that, we get these little, Rob called them kinks, and that's what they are. But they're little areas of brief, but sometimes enough rotation. There's one there, there's one here, and there's several of them. And the radar operators at these weather service offices have their work cut out from them. They've been trained in this, but you're trying to find these and then anticipate, yeah, that one has a better chance to tighten up, produce a tornado than others. But that's why we've seen a couple of these tornado warnings thus far. Now, I will tell you, no confirmation of any touchdowns. They've all been radar indicated. I want to show you the radar sequence over the last hour, and then I will run you through future track 13 because I think that's a nice, but you can see the bow. We always say look for the bow. That's what ups the odds of wind damage that is moving into or toward Lafayette. It'll be there before 10 o'clock, potential of over 60-mile-per-hour gust. These reports that you see back out in Illinois, these are wind damage reports and wind reports from today, at least within the last 6 hours. And then, so we've had some damage with the line back in Illinois. And so that's something as we move forward here, Rob, throughout the evening. Now, I do want to spend just a brief moment on what's ahead. So by by about 11 o'clock, this should be over I-65 corridor here in the central part of the state. So more than likely, I think it gets in the city about 10 o'clock. This thing will be out of the state by 2 a.m. So this is a quick situation. Then we're going to switch gears and get into the colder side of the system here. So, but we'll be with you between now and then, and we'll be monitoring. And something else that concerns me a little bit too, Rob, is that we've had, from the wind earlier today, we still have some leftover power outages.
Yeah.
And those aren't going to be fixed because now the crews have to come in and get until this line can come through. And so we'll be monitoring this power outage map as we move forward. We had over 30,000 earlier today. Wow. Down, I think we're around 10,000 now, if not less than that. So that's a little, and we're at 9,000 in the state right now. So we'll be monitoring this as we move forward.
A couple of things I've been noticing on some of the traffic cameras. One of the things, I'll show you what it is, and then I don't know if I'll necessarily make commentary on what you should and shouldn't do. We've got someone kind of taking shelter under the overpass. Hopefully they're just getting off of the side of the road here just to make sure that the rain may be blinding at this point. Unfortunately in Covington, as the system gets a little bit closer, as there's a car just off to the side here. But of course, we always tell you don't take shelter underneath an overpass like this if there's a tornado or something coming, because it's just not the safe way to go. Of course, you don't want to also be in the path of oncoming traffic as well. You want to make sure you're able to get far enough over, and that's not always the case. Also watching some of our other NDOT traffic cameras. Let's see where this one is. Looks like they're moving.
Sorry, I was going to reposition this to, I was going to get it into Lafayette as that apex is heading that way.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead. Also watching Bloomington, of course. And Bloomington we're going to keep an eye on because of the southern end of this line. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about where we are. Talk about the bow. That's exactly it right there. And it's about halfway through this severe thunderstorm warning. So he's been mentioning Lafayette and Union. These are the areas that we're going to be tracking where we could likely see a new severe thunderstorm warning issued, I'd say within the next 10 minutes or so, because this is moving east at about 50 miles per hour. Think about driving 50 miles per hour, how long it's going to take you to cross the state, and that's this side of the storm. Let me do one quick thing here. Let me put a track on this just to show you. The leading edge of this is what I want to track. I don't necessarily care about the rain out ahead of it because it's always, we've got a good bit of rain. This is moving to the east at about 50 miles per hour, so that may just put it on Lafayette there to bring it onto the map. 28 minutes is what we're expecting, so right at about 9:35 or so is when we expect that to arrive. Also, some of the other towns that you can see, Shelby at 18 minutes, Shadeland 23 minutes. This is going to be 7 minutes in Highland, 1 minute for Williamsport. That's when that line will push through, likely producing the gusty winds. The strong winds are there in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Once the atmosphere settled down just a little bit, we didn't have quite as much wind near the surface. It's why the winds calmed down. They didn't go to calm, but they weren't nearly as strong as earlier in the day when the atmosphere was tumbling because the sunshine got things kicked up. Once this severe thunderstorm warning comes through, it's going to push some of those winds back down to the surface, and that's why we can see those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Farther to the south we go, and there is that tornado warning still in place southwest of Terre Haute. We will see if that will be allowed to continue to be pushed to the north and east. This is what Sean was showing you a little bit earlier. Unfortunately, that too is in a location where we're kind of in between radars, between the Indianapolis radar and the Evansville radar, which is what Sean was using just a moment or so ago. And you can see there are several more warnings farther to the south from that. The reason Sean is looking there is because look at the trajectory. That puts it over central Indiana, and we want to make sure we're watching what's coming upstream before it moves here and before it gets here. Do have the tornado watch in place until 3 a.m. Still watching these severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, just to give you a little bit more information here. So the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place has some tornado possible tagging. So there's a base severe thunderstorm warning, and then the National Weather Service can add some wording to that to kind of clarify what they think the damage is going to be or what the concern is. This is the base version with the tornado possible tagging, 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is going to be Fountain, Park, Vermilion, and Warren County, and that's going to go until 9:30. They just issued a new warning right there. Let's get that one on the screen. This also has the tornado possible wording. This is going to be for Clay, Park, Vermilion, and Vigo County, and that's going to go until 10 p.m., although I have a feeling it's certainly going to be out of there by 10 p.m. as this is continuing to move to the east at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. The biggest concern here is the wind speed. They've got some hail tagging in here. It's going to be less than 3/4 of an inch, less than nickel size essentially, but wind is the big concern. We haven't seen much with this system when it comes to a hailstorm or hail system from today. Tornado warning to the south and west of Terre Haute. Will that be allowed to continue or not? We'll continue to watch it. And a little bit closer with some of the velocity here. Let me see if I can just move the map, see if I can see anything that's drawing my eye to it. There's a little bit of some broad circulation here, but that's really on the north side of that bow that we've been talking about. And then where Sean was mentioning he had to go down and use a different radar, and you'll see my radar switched right there because it is going to try to pick up the Evansville radar. And it's right on this line. What Sean has been looking for, and you'll see it as the new sweep comes along, is will we get any tightening? Will we get any tightening along that line? Thankfully, I'm not seeing a whole lot here, but again, it's also in that area where you don't get the best view of what's happening at the surface. The farther out the beam goes from where the radar is located, the higher in the atmosphere it goes. And by the time it gets out here in this little pocket where that current tornado warning is, you're looking much higher in the atmosphere than we'd like to when it comes to confirming tornado warnings. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings currently. We have 2 that are in play for Indiana right now. Both of these have the tornado possible wording, but there are no tornado warnings currently in the state. As far as what to expect, the line will continue progressing east. There are a couple of tornado warnings here. And then farther down the line, just to take you to Paducah, there's a couple of tornado warnings there for Paducah currently. And then farther south from there, in fact, there's at least 4, depending on how the National Weather Service has split those up. And then let me take you down to this, because this is something that I'm also noticing. We've got a stronger severe thunderstorm warning. Notice the outline of this severe thunderstorm warning. It's slightly thicker and a darker color than this severe thunderstorm warning. Now, I know that's subtle, and you don't necessarily need to concern yourself with that, but that's how I know what type of severe thunderstorm warning that is. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, let me remove this. Now, look. National Weather Service is going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning based on one of 2 criteria, or both, either hail or wind. Now, for the base severe, it's either going to be an inch diameter hail, that's severe criteria, so that's going to be about the size of a quarter, or 58-mile-per-hour winds. That's the typical kind of run-of-the-mill severe thunderstorm warning that we've been warning you about for years. They've added the wording at times, considerable. Now, they can add that wording, and there was one that we saw that was considerable, where it's 70-mile-per-hour winds. So it's still a severe thunderstorm warning, but now 70-mile-per-hour would be the threshold, or if you're talking about hail, we're talking about golf ball size hail. Hail will not be as much of a concern for tonight. To go a step further, there is also what is called a destructive severe thunderstorm warning. If we get into this case, we're going to treat it as a tornado warning and cut into our on-air on WTHR product to make sure we alert people. And the reason why is because this destructive severe thunderstorm warning puts the winds estimated at 80 miles per hour or higher, also baseball-size hail, but that's not going to be the concern for tonight. And this will activate your smartphone. So if you are underneath that severe thunderstorm warning that is destructive, your phone will go off just like it is for a tornado warning. In fact, we're going to treat it as a tornado warning. As far as wind speeds right now, just looking at some of the current wind speeds, 36 miles per hour right now out of the Indianapolis International Airport. Still watching this line, just rolled back here. Let me put this into motion, see if I can see if the winds spiked at all once it moved over this observation right here. And it may not be able to. I may have to step just off camera just to do that real quick, just because I want to see if anything happened within the last hour as that moved over that reporting site. And we should be able to see here. Yeah, here we go. And there's that live picture from Covington, by the way. Thankfully, that storm is now past there, so it doesn't look like there's any concern or any damage. Let me remove this just so you can see. Now, you'll see a couple of 41 mile per hour wind gusts to the west. We also see the new severe thunderstorm warnings that popped up as this moved east. We're also watching the wind speeds out ahead of this still in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range. In fact, that 36 mile per hour wind gust at the airport is higher than what they had been seeing over the last hour prior to that. Still some 20, 25 mile per hour gusts, close to 30. Nothing that triggered right there as far as our severe thunderstorm wind speeds. Here's the current wind gust. Just put it into a little tabular form so you can see it. Right now it's 36 at the airport, but look at what we had earlier in the day today. We had 55 mile per hour wind gusts at the airport. Remember, here's what I said happened. When the sunshine was shining down and mixing things up and warming us up to 70 degrees, it mixed up the atmosphere enough that it could take some of those mid-level winds and pull them down to the surface. And we felt that in the form of 50-plus mile per hour winds. Then as the atmosphere started to settle into the evening, we didn't have to deal with that. Now that the storm line is moving through, we're going to be watching it. Sean, what do you have over there?
Oh, no, sorry, I'm just talking to myself here. Other than right now, in terms of when we look at what we call our shear product, so again, this takes all the wind data, just kind of cleans it up and says, hey, look at me. This is where the strongest wind shear is. It's moving through Attica. It's not made it into Tippecanoe County just yet. I do have an NDOT camera that we're going to be watching there closely. Thus far, and the Central Indiana Skynet is up. That's the amateur radio operators, storm spotters. That network is up, and that will be up until the threat is over. So we appreciate their reports. We haven't had anything just yet, but this is moving right on schedule. We were thinking it would get into West Lafayette, Purdue's campus before 10 p.m., and that is still in play. Okay, we do have some pops of lightning. We don't have a lot. You may not have a whole lot with this. I will tell you that the wind field in advance of this line is very strong. Okay, low-level wind field, so it will keep it going overnight. This is usually a calmer period in the atmosphere. That just a lot of the bouts that we've had have fed off this low-level jet stream, and that's what we're going to have. I've had a couple of questions from Muncie and Newcastle. Are we not under a threat? You are under a threat. You're just not under a watch right now. What will happen is they will see the progression of the line that's now in west central Indiana. If we start getting some damage out of it, then what will happen is the watch will be expanded farther to the east. But until this line that's now in the state gets through, you are technically under a threat. And we don't expect it to be in Ohio till roughly in the 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. time period. It's going to be much sooner. I will say, once you get behind this line, the threat will be over. And for you folks in Lafayette, in Covington, in Attica, that threat is going to be over, at least for Covington and Attica. This line is going to be to your east by 10 o'clock. So you'll be done at that point in time. Doesn't mean you won't still have some rain. Okay, so we've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings of varying levels of intensity. This line goes all the way down to the Ohio River and points to the south. And within it, we do have some tornado warnings. Based on what I'm seeing, Rob, the threat of a tornado in our viewing area, we've always said that the wind was going to be the issue tonight. But a quick spin up is still very much on the table, so we could get some tornado warnings. But it's this possibility of getting 75-mile-per-hour gusts, which is still very possible. Because we got a long way to go before we get this line through. So we'll see how this thing progresses. I hope we don't get tornado warnings, and I hope we get minimal damage. We just have to be watching radar like a hawk until we can get this thing out of here.
One of the things you mentioned just a moment ago was about the tornado watches that are in place, and someone from Muncie asking if they were under the gun. There was a study that came out not too long ago that suggested that they don't want to issue the watches too soon because if they issue them too far out, they're on for 12 hours at a time, and people kind of let their guard down. What you're looking at here is from earlier in the day today. So this is near Whiteland. This is where we had several power poles down. This is from non-thunderstorm wind damage. So the winds gusting at times over 50 miles per hour produce this type of damage. We saw this also on Friday, but this picture is from earlier in the day today. From the widespread winds, it's what Sean was talking about, tapping into that low-level jet, and we saw that earlier in the day today when the atmosphere was really moving because of the sunshine. Now the atmosphere is moving again because of this. And again, you can see the tornado watches that are in place. Severe thunderstorm warnings and also a tornado warning. Let me go through these just to get you updated on the latest information, because I do want to make sure we've got the wording in here for these. This one's got a tornado possible wording. This is the one that's going to be for Carroll, Clinton, Montgomery, and Tippecanoe County. This is going to be for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Hail, not really a concern with this. This is going to go until 10 p.m., although it's probably going to be faster than that because these are moving at a pretty good clip. An additional severe thunderstorm warning south from there. This one may take a little bit longer to move through because the southern end of this is not moving quite as quickly. This also has the tornado possible wording, although it is a severe thunderstorm warning. Clay, Park, Vermilion, and Vigo County, that also goes until 10 p.m. For winds of up to 60 miles per hour. Just to the southwest from there, and I'm curious to see what the National Weather Service is going to do, is the tornado warning. This is radar indicated. If it becomes an observed tornado anytime during this evening tonight, if you're going to be staying with us and watching our coverage, if it turns this kind of pinkish magenta color at some point tonight, that means it's an observed tornado. This is not an observed tornado. This is just radar indicated. Don't necessarily treat them differently, but when we know it's observed, we put a lot more faith that we have to really be on our guard for those storms. Let me just remove this very quickly just to show you. I've been watching some of these areas. There's the one that Sean had been talking about very early, the spin in this. You can see the severe thunderstorm warning outline that takes it through Lafayette and points to the east here. That's mainly where we're expecting the strongest of the winds, and we'll see a new scan come through. What we don't want to see is any tightening up of that. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible at the moment. It certainly does not have a well-defined couplet, and also we're seeing kind of a similar situation down to the south. The ones to the south, we'll have to see if they're going to allow those to expire. It does look like they'll probably allow those to expire, as this one's essentially exited, although you can make out a little bit of a notch right there on the eastern side of that tornado warning. Just something we're going to continue watching through the next probably 5 or 10 minutes or so. That one's going to go until 8:30, but that's Central Time. So it's got another 10 minutes or so on that tornado warning. The other two severe thunderstorm warnings will go until 10 p.m. This one here at 8:45 p.m. is the one behind this. So they're going to continue in succession moving across. And at some point, this is probably going to get into Indy, likely going to go under a severe thunderstorm warning. As the line passes, you're likely going to see the winds pick up. Gusty winds for sure. Probably going to see some of those gusts as high as maybe 50 to 60 miles per hour just within the thunderstorm. There's a couple of new wind reports that have come out, 40 miles per hour just over the line into Danville, Illinois, and then 48 mile per hour wind gusts on the backside of this. The winds on the backside are going to be pretty strong as well, and here's the reason why. This front's moving through, and then we've talked about the temperatures dropping in a big way, where we're going to see the temperatures drop down probably into the 20s by morning. In order to go from 60s to 20s, the way to cool it down is to push the colder air in, and that's exactly what's going to be happening. Wind gusts currently sitting at 20 to 25 miles per hour. We'll be going back to these boards throughout the night because they're going to turn red when it gets above 50. And of course, for today, we had some 50-plus mile per hour wind gusts earlier in the day. Let's take you to a couple of traffic cameras here. There's that Covington camera. We can probably move that one safely to another location because we think the storm has passed through there. Also, this is the one in Lafayette that we've been talking about. Sean's been mentioning this one. We'll come back to that one as the storms get a little bit closer. And then watching our downtown camera, this is looking due south. So keep that in mind as those storms approach, the ones from Terre Haute and south from there that have tornado warnings. This is the one we're really going to keep our eye on. And then also on this north side of Indy, I know the camera's a little bit tilted here. There's some scattered rain showers that are happening, but I am looking west. This is 465 right here, I believe. Yes, that is 465. I had to orient myself here just to make sure. So we're looking to the west where the storms will likely be moving in from. Now, unfortunately, being dark and there's not a lot of lightning, we may not see very much, but we always like to keep our eye to that. And also Bloomington. Bloomington, we're watching you because we want to keep your eyes to your south and west. We will be watching the storms, and I'll have to get updated on exactly which direction. Do you happen to know what direction this Bloomington camera is? You may not know.
I think west. I think west. I'm not. Admittedly, I'm not sure. I want to think I saw the sunset one time, but
okay.
But you know,
that would put it west.
My brain. You know me long enough, partner.
You've had the peanut M&Ms tonight. It should be working just fine. But let me show you where we are here. Terre Haute just to the south. I wasn't supposed to give that away. Terre Haute to the south, you have a new severe thunderstorm warning that's now been issued, and we're seeing all of the severe thunderstorm warnings along this line. They've crossed the state line. Look, now what's going to happen is this. This is going to move across the entire state. In fact, we're going to see this whole line. And boy, I got to tell you, Sean Ash called this when we were talking about the forecast 4 days ago. He said, look, Sunday night, we're likely going to have a line of storms roll through here and a good chance that we're going to see severe. And all along this line, we are expecting severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit and try to look at some of the storms farther to the south because there's continued severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, and it continues farther to the south and continues farther to the south all the way to the Gulf Coast. The setup a little bit, Sean, kind of reminds me of the 93, kind of the way the 93 superstorm went all the way across the continent, essentially, and that's what we're dealing with here. Another one of these entire continent spreading storms that's going to roll through, especially with the drop in temperatures. You go from severe storms to very wintry conditions on the backside of this. And yes, there is some snow that's falling in the western part of Illinois now that the front has moved through. Of course, our immediate concern is the severe thunderstorm warnings and the tornado warnings that are in place. A couple of things to notice here, as I told you not too long ago, but I'll reiterate it for our viewers that are just tuning in. This is going to be slightly different here. When I query this, notice this orange box has a slightly darker color around it. And the reason why is because it's got this tornado possible wording so that I can view this and go, okay, tornado possible with this one, tornado possible with this one, tornado possible with this one. On a night like this, we don't often have, or on a normal night I should say, we don't normally have that many severe thunderstorm warnings that have that tagging to it. Tonight is a little bit different, as we've been telling you that just about this entire line is going to be something we're concerned about. To the south we go, also tornado possible wording, because all along this line you can see the tornado warnings that have popped up. We jump over the line a little bit more, and then there's a new one that pops up right here. This one is slightly different. I want to get in a little bit closer here and just show you, because this may be something that comes up later this evening. This has a slightly thicker outline to it, and the reason why, and I'm going to query this so you'll see, is that it's going to have some additional wording here. The threat is going to be considerable. When this threat goes up to considerable, it's because the National Weather Service has increased the damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour. That would be the next in the step, the next in the line of severity. So you have the base severe thunderstorm warning, then the tornado possible, then you have this considerable tagging. Above that, you have destructive, and let's hope we don't see those, because then that ups this up to 80 miles per hour. Let me take you back to our area just to show you what we're looking at right now. I'll take you back to where we are currently, and you can see the severe thunderstorm warnings are starting to march towards Indianapolis, although they've still got about 2 counties away before they finally arrive. What do you have, Sean?
No, not much. I just, I agree with you. They're still a little bit away. I would suspect these, though, get expanded eastward here.
We may see some of those gigantic severe thunderstorm warnings that they end up putting out.
Well, and I think we will. And one thing I will caution you sometimes, and I've seen this happen the last couple of bouts on these lines, you're watching them and you're not overly impressed. Man, I've seen them intensify, sometimes right over the metro area or just to the west. So can't stress it enough. And another point too, you know, we've had a lot of rain here in the month of March. The ground is very saturated. We had a big wind event on Friday. We had a big wind event today prior to this. And so some of the trees that have maybe been able to hold up might be, their threshold to hold up might be lower now, and we're going to tap into some of this. I will tell you on our shear detector here, our wind shear detector, it is spiking up. I'm going to get in very close here. This is now into Tippecanoe, near Windgate. When we start to see these red shades on this particular product, that is showing signs of strong wind shear. Now, sometimes it can be rotation, and then sometimes it can just be straight line wind. In this case, it probably is going to be the latter here. So it's going to be crossing into the southwestern side of West Lafayette. We got a camera up there that we've been monitoring, and we're going to continue to do so. I also repositioned one of our NDOT cameras and put it over near Terre Haute. But let's get into, so this is our Terre Haute camera. We'll see what that looks like in about a half an hour. This is Sagamore Parkway, Cumberland Avenue, western side of Lafayette. So we're going to be on the lookout for this one as this line starts to move in here. Thus far, we haven't had a lot of wind reports here in the state.
I don't like the way that looks, though. There's definitely that shear that you were talking about.
Yeah, and then so let's see what happens as this moves across. So keep an eye, Rob, on that that Lafayette camera as this thing moves in.
The other thing, you were mentioning Terre Haute earlier. We have some video from earlier in the day today of some of the wind damage that happened there in Terre Haute, not necessarily from what currently is rolling through, but what we saw from the kind of non-thunderstorm wind damage. Everybody dealt with some gusty winds today, 55 to 60 mile per hour winds that happened earlier. Those gusty winds led to some power lines that were down. They led to, I believe there was not a bin, a grain bin that had fallen down and the wind had pushed it across one of the highways. We had that as well. If we have that video, go ahead and pop up that video from Terre Haute from earlier in the day today. If not, we'll move on. There we go. This is from the city of Terre Haute. This was near South Paul Dresser Street that you can see several trees down. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Sean. One of the things I said was, look, the leaves aren't on the trees just yet. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're talking about winds pushing through, you know, the more leaves are on the trees, the more of a sail it becomes and the easier it is to topple. Unfortunately, when you're talking about 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, you don't need those leaves on the trees, but that certainly does make a difference. It will take less for that to happen. The ground's also been saturated. Sean mentioned that we've had a good bit of rain over the last several days, last several weeks, I should say. So the ground's been pretty saturated heading into kind of the springtime before the temperature started to warm up. Okay, let's go back to my computer. Let's talk about a couple of things because I am noticing a few warnings that they've allowed to expire. So they've now kind of split the line here. Still one severe thunderstorm warning that does include Lafayette. And then to the north and east, this is almost to Flora, essentially the west side of Flora. Doesn't quite include Monticello, but we do expect that you're going to at least see the line move through. You just don't have the warning from it. I'll put the reflectivity on so you can see as the line gets a little bit closer. This is the line. This is where Sean was showing you a little bit of that shear. Farther to the south, let me actually move a little farther to the south to show you, we have a break in this line. And that between that, we don't have the severe thunderstorm warning. And then it picks back up with this severe thunderstorm warning where we're watching the line kind of pick back up again. The northern part of this storm has accelerated a bit out ahead of this part of the storm. This has slowed down a bit. Does that matter? A little bit, because where you get that inconsistency between the two, the line can start to take on a little bit of a wiggle, and you can start to get some rotation and things happening along that line, something that we don't want to see. We don't want to see any rotation We don't want to see any squiggles on this line, and we definitely don't want to see this start to push out any more than this, where we could see some of the wind gusts go even higher than what they have already been. Larger picture here, what I like to see with this is these are just severe thunderstorm warnings. Now I say just, I want you to treat them that we could see 60-mile-per-hour winds, but we don't have any tornado warnings at the moment. And let's hope it stays that way. Do still have the tornado watch in place, even though these are severe thunderstorm warnings. We're still watching for that possibility of rotation. This is what Sean was showing you a little bit earlier. This is the area near Lafayette where you can see there's a little bit of a curve here and the winds change direction a bit, and that always has us concerned at that point. That's why this severe thunderstorm warning has the tornado possible wording, and I'll put that on the screen so that you can see it. This is also going to include Carroll County, Clinton County, as well as Montgomery County, not just Tippecanoe County. That one's going to go until 10 p.m., and it's mainly for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, but the tornado possible wording is there. Farther to the south from that one, the other severe thunderstorm warning also has the tornado possible wording. I'll move it just to the right a little bit so when I query this, you can see what we're talking about. This is the box that we're looking at. This is for Clay Park, Vermilion, and Vigo. This is going to be also tornado possible wording, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and then south from there, there's an additional severe thunderstorm warning. All of these have the tornado possible wording. Keep that in mind. This is going to be for Clay, Davies, Greene, Knox, Sullivan, and Vigo County. 60-mile-per-hour winds, the main concern. Hail is listed here, but it's not the main concern. That one also is going to go until 10 p.m. There's the line, several severe thunderstorm warnings. Quickly, I want to do this just to show you kind of how wild this system is. I'll zoom out first, actually. Let me zoom way out. And I do want to zoom way out. One, because I don't want it to query all those severe thunderstorm warnings. I want you to see some of the severe thunderstorm warnings to the south. But look at that. That is blizzard warnings. All these, in fact, almost the entire state of Wisconsin under blizzard warnings, the UP of Michigan, most of Iowa, the southern part of Minnesota here, and I want to see if I can do this actually. Let me see if I can put all of the watches and warnings on. I think I've got them listed here, all alerts. This is going to light up like a rainbow array of all of the watches and warnings that are on, and there are a lot of them. The blizzard warning there, that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at we've got freeze warnings down to the south. We've got tornado watches all the way to the Gulf Coast, fire weather warnings, winter storm warnings. This is a huge storm that's got a lot of cold air back behind it, and we will likely see the temperatures drop down into the 20s by tomorrow morning. I think 12 hours from now, we won't be looking at 60s and 70s. We'll be looking at 20s and 30s. I mentioned this earlier. I've got a graphic that will illustrate it. I've mentioned this a couple of times because I anticipate that as this pushes through, we're probably going to be dealing with some of this. Base thunderstorm warning, I said 60-mile-per-hour winds. These are what's moving through right now. 58 miles per hour is the trigger from the National Weather Service. They've also put the tornado possible tagging on this because it may not take much to spin those up. A step above that, if the winds go up to 70 miles per hour within some of those thunderstorms, Weather Service is going to put this considerable tagging in there. A step up from that would be a destructive severe thunderstorm warning. That's when we expect the winds to be as high as 80 miles per hour. I think I've only seen one of those happen maybe about a year ago. I think we've had one that maybe moved through the western part of the state, producing some 80-mile-per-hour wind
We've
gusts.
actually had a couple in Marion County the last couple of years, and believe me when I tell you, they verified.
I do remember that because we had the 81-mile-per-hour, I think, wind gusts at Indianapolis.
So yes, there's a reason they issue them, and when they issue them, as I've been trying to tell folks on the Facebook channel here, why aren't you on Channel 13? Why aren't you on Channel 13? Well, we will, and I hope we don't have to.
Yes.
But a tornado warning or that there, we will be on. But this is the beauty of this particular platform that we have. We can stay on as long as we want and provide information. And I've got both of our NDOT cameras, by the way. I put the other one in Lafayette as well. Okay, perfect. Just at a different location.
Let's go ahead and look at those right now while we've got a moment. Let me actually go to a different set here. Look at some of the wind reports that have been coming in. 23 for Lafayette currently. I do have a new scan that's coming through, and I'll check some of the data, but also I just want to see if the cam data is there. Yes, now I can get to NDOT 1. This is Lafayette for sure. There's Sagamore Parkway that we're looking at, and you can see some of the rain moving through, but probably a little bit of time before that's going to be something that we'll have to be too concerned about. Also watching some of the wind gusts, 36 still at Indianapolis, Seeing the strongest gust, this is from earlier in the day, but if we do have winds that come through that top this, it will update if they get above where we are. In other words, Indy was gusting to 55 earlier in the afternoon, but when this line comes through, if they gust to 57, it will update that number, and we'll see more and more reports come in. Again, there's the NDOT traffic camera that we were talking about earlier, and then it looks like we've got another NDOT traffic camera there.
Yeah, the other one's at 65 and State Road 26.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is on the east side of Lafayette,
Yes,
I think?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And again, watching all of our cameras, right now there's not a whole lot happening on those, but the reason we have this ready to go is because we expect that line to come racing through here. And you can see we have this line very well defined. What's going to happen here is once the radar starts to look at this, once it gets that kind of cross section of what's happening with this, you're going to see very strong winds start to get picked up on the Indianapolis radar. Don't see it happening just yet. I still think we're kind of shooting over the lower level energy with this because the radar is still out 3 or 4 counties out from where the radar is located. Also a little bit of tightening maybe there on the southern end of that. Doesn't look terribly strong. I'm actually, to be honest, Sean, I'm encouraged by where things have gone over the last 40 minutes. It seems like they're certainly not rotating as much as what they were seeing into central Illinois once this line crossed into Indiana. Still have, of course, a line of severe thunderstorms, but we don't have multiple tornado warnings that are happening at the moment.
Yeah, and you know what? It's again, I'm A-okay if that's how the rest of our night goes. It is going to be interesting, as we've talked about. You know, again, how just because we've had so much wind, how this is going to hold up, how these trees are going to hold up. We've had a bunch of them down. We've had a bunch of power poles down earlier today, a bunch of telephone poles down. These energy and phone companies, these repair crews have had their work cut out for them because we've now had 2 pretty decent wind events in 2 days, and then we're going to tag on this squall line. So again, this is 20 I-65 at State Road 26. I'm going to go back to our wind shear detector here and show you where that camera is located. And so again, this is on the east side of Lafayette. So the green that you're seeing, it's gusty wind for sure. When we start to see the reds, that's some pockets of stronger wind being detected by the radar. But the signature that we are seeing on this is what it's not a real sharp bow, but it is a bow nonetheless, and that's why it's prompted the severe thunderstorm warnings that continue to get expanded toward the east, along and east of this line as it moves to the north of Indy for the time being. What will impact the metro area and what is eventually starting to get into the west central part of the state now and going to interact with Terre Haute and Brazil, and that's why we've seen the severe thunderstorm warnings. Let me show you how this looks. It's going to take off the radar data real quickly just to show you the line of severe thunderstorm warnings that stretches from Rockville, Brazil, goes all the way down to Jasonville and Linton, and this goes all the way down to the southwestern corner of the state. And then the remainder of us under this tornado watch, not east central Indiana, and then you can see the severe thunderstorm warning that includes Lafayette, that includes Delphi. Okay, so we've got a whole line of watches and warnings to roll through here. Moving on schedule, Rob, the way it looks, so I think the core of this line gets in here right around 10:30. And you want to take over?
Yeah, I can hit that.
Take over the camera there because it looks like it's now in the belly of the beast, if you will.
Yeah, let me go to that camera. I just kind of pointed to Sean over his shoulder there. We've got so many monitors in here monitoring what's going on. I want to take NDOT 2 very quickly. Here's it moving right across. Look at the winds picking up the wind-driven rain, and you can see, of course, the cars have their flashers on because when the wind is going through that strongly along with the heavy rain.
One thing I'll point out, but you're not going to have a whole lot of thunder and lightning with this. This is just going to be a big burst of wind coming with this rain, which is going to be a little bit different than some of our other squall lines that we've had.
It's also crossing 65 perpendicularly, which means that as those winds brush across, you know, that matters a bit, because one of the semis, which we just saw, which he was having his flashers on as he was moving through, if that's a crosswind, if it's strong enough, it can tip that semi over, as we saw on Friday with several of the semis that ended up falling over near Fort Wayne.
47 mile per hour gust from the Ham there, Lafayette, Teal Road by the fairgrounds.
Okay.
So that's sub-severe.
It's getting close, yeah. We're certainly right at the cusp, and we kind of expect that. Notice we don't see, as Sean said, a lot of lightning with this. Not expecting to see a lot of lightning. Let me go just to a couple of other cameras just to see. I want to go to that other one, which is also in Lafayette. This one's going to be farther to the west. In fact, I think it's maybe passed through this side of town. Let me go to this. A couple things I noticed, Sean, and I was getting a little more concerned, and I'm curious if you want to take a look at it as well over on your computer. Right between the two warnings that currently do not have a warning, so right there where the line has a little bit of a break, I started getting in and looking at some of the storm relative velocity within this, and I started to see it's weak, but we are starting to see some noise in the data that has me a bit more concerned that maybe there's going to be a little bit of spin on the southern end of this, where the northern line has gotten out ahead of this and is moving faster. The southern line is not moving as quickly, and you can get these little eddies that pop up every now and then. Don't look as impressive there, but when I looked at it just about maybe 5 minutes or so ago, kind of where the two of these go together, I was getting a little bit more concerned. All of the severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place have this tornado possible wording here with all of the severe. Of course, that is radar indicated. Still watching the northern line. This is going to be the stronger part of this. What sometimes can happen, Sean, and maybe you can speak to this as well, there's that 51 that went through officially at Lafayette. That northern part of the line, if it gets out ahead of it, I wonder if it will weaken and reform farther to the west, or if it's just going to race across and use up all the energy. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out on the north of Indianapolis. Yeah, and we've got the rain that's falling now over the metro area. This is not really an instability situation for us. It's more of a wind energy situation. And on the eastern side, just ahead of this, let me just take my telestrator. So just ahead of this line, that low-level wind field is well over 50 miles per hour. And when I say low-level wind field, I'm talking about the wind at approximately about 5,000 feet. So in addition to that, we've got the strong pressure gradient that was causing the wind from earlier today. So it won't take a whole lot to drag down the channel of 50 to 70 mile per hour wind at 5,000 feet and get it to the ground. And what can do that are just that band of showers that's moving in. That can be enough to tap into it and push it toward the ground. Okay, whether or not that happens, to be determined. Now Lafayette, as Rob was showing you, that peak gust as it moved through thus far looks like it was just below severe limits, which is 58 plus. So that's a promising trend, at least with that portion of the line. Let's hope that that trend continues. And then we'll see what happens to the central and southern portion of the line. But so far, so good. Fingers crossed that holds up. Now, our shear product, again, as we look at this, kind of takes away all that data. So the worst now is east of Lafayette. The strongest wind burst is moving through Delphi, Dayton, east of Linden, and then we'll wait and see. We're not going to get a lot of signatures on the western part of this because the radar is just too far up, but we'll see how it works as it gets a little closer to us here in the metro area and we get better radar sampling. I think we've got a traffic camera in Frankfort, do we not? I think we could probably move that Sagamore Parkway to Frankfort, and I'll drive a little bit so Sean can move some of the traffic cameras here. What we're trying to do is get out ahead of it, watch the camera as it moves through, and then once we do see it move through, then change that camera. So he's going to try to look over here in this general direction just so we can keep an eye on it. And then maybe some of those some of those ones along 65, we may bring it also down a little farther to the south and east. What I'm really just kind of interesting to me is just how the northern segment of the line has really sped up. The southern segment of this line is really not going very fast at all. In fact, that part of the storm has really slowed down quite a bit. What we are going to have to keep an eye on is if there are any little wiggles here. It looks pretty linear at the moment. I like to see that. I don't want to see any little wiggles start to take shape. Very quickly, while I have the radar, I'm just going to switch over to the velocity so I can see what we're looking at. Doesn't look concerning at the moment. I like to see that. Also the same thing that Sean was looking at, a little bit of a different presentation on it. I don't see anything there that's too interesting, although I've got a new scan coming through. Still have to watch that northern end of the cell that's just pushed through Lafayette because it's right on that curve. But other than that, not so bad right now. Here's Indy, here's the storm, still 2-3 counties away. You've probably got through about maybe 10:30 or so before this starts to move into the western areas. I will check and see how that cam is looking. Actually, let me go about it a different way. Let me do this.
I got you Frankfurt.
Okay. Let me do this and then let me go ahead just to see. There's our winds now back down to 36 from earlier where we had 51 in Lafayette. Still looking at 20s and 30s across much of the area. Wind gusts there. I wanted to get to this graphic because I believe this is the one that will show me the cameras. Yes, so I am looking now here at Interstate 65 at 172. This is the one we had earlier, still rain ongoing. And there's our Frankfurt camera. As you can see, still waiting. There's a good bit of a shake to the camera here, letting you know that the winds even ahead of the line of storms are pretty strong. I have a feeling once we see that line move through, this is really going to be rocking and rolling. Starting to see some rain on the downtown Indianapolis camera as well. Not unexpected. We knew rain showers were out ahead of this. Something I want to make sure we keep an eye on. Seeing the camera move there, I'll take a look and see what it looks like. Interstate 70.
So I got you over in Terre Haute where
Yep.
they're under the severe thunderstorm warning over there.
Yeah, you can definitely see the visibility has certainly dropped quite a bit. Winds don't appear to be terribly strong. Just trying to see, I like to look at the, as the cars go by, you can see a little bit of the spray come up and you can see some of the winds, how strong the winds are when they do have that spray come up. Let me go back to my computer real quick. I want to do a few things, just kind of reset. If you're just joining us, we are looking at 9:48. Meteorologist Robb Ellis here. We are giving you live updates. Meteorologist Sean Ash standing by. Want to update you on several severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place. No tornado warnings at the moment, but let's get you updated and kind of reset with what we're seeing. We do have one that is to the north, probably going to continue to be extended to the east, although at the moment we have not seen anything verify for these 60-mile-per-hour winds, although it's still very early and that could still be moving through and causing some wind damage. Carroll County, Clinton County, Montgomery County, Tippecanoe County, that's going to go until 10 p.m. Probably going to see this continue to move to the east. The National Weather Service is probably going to put another box out as the whole storm slides to the east. Farther to the south from there, we have a little bit of a break in the southern end of the northern part of this line. Then there's a break. Then there's another severe thunderstorm warning, or several actually, along this end of the line. So let's get you the information on that one. This one too has the tornado possible wording with the severe thunderstorm warning, meaning this is the biggest concern, the gusty winds, but it is certainly possible that a quick spin up could happen with these. So far, from any of these storms as they've crossed the Indiana state line, we have not had any tornado warnings or concern that we're seeing a little bit of spin up there. Good news. This one goes until 10 p.m. for Clay, Park, Vermilion, and Vigo County. From there, what we're going to be watching as the new sweep comes through and gets me some new data, what we'll be watching is along this little S that you're looking at here, if that starts to tighten up a little bit, if we see any spin up along that, that would be something we need to be concerned about. But these are going to get a little bit closer to Indy. One thing that may happen or may have happened is some of the showers out ahead of this may have dampened some of the impact of some of these storms as they come through. We'd like to see that. They're also going to be producing some pretty heavy rain, but as Sean said, there's not a lot of lightning with these. I'll put the lightning data on so you can see it. You just won't see necessarily a lot of it. There is some there, and we'll put the counter on so you can see it. Number of strikes, 10 in just this view that we're seeing west of Indy. I mean, that's a huge area that only has 10 lightning strikes. So this isn't one of those things where you'll see the storm coming because there's so much lightning. As it approaches, you'll hear the rumbles of thunder. It's just not the kind of scenario that this is. Let me do this. Let me query this. I want to get a speed on the southern end of this, and I'm just going to query it and take a look just off air just to see what we're looking at for wind speed or speed of the storm. Northeast at 45 is what we're looking at there. So for this particular line, moving northeast at about 45 miles per hour, what we'll do is we'll draw and then take this to the east. It's not moving as quickly as it once was. We'll do 47 miles per hour, give you a little bit of a heads up. This is going to be near Brazil in 19 minutes. That's going to put it there right at 10:10 or so. This appears to have slowed down a little bit. What's difficult is the northern end of the line is probably going to be past Indy by 11 o'clock. It's probably going to be north and east of Indy. Meanwhile, the western side of the line may not necessarily have gone through just yet. It's going to be that kind of a disconnection between the two here. All of this moving to the east. Let me take you farther to the north and we'll show you that line, and I'll see if I can get the same information from this line, because when you see it bow out like that, when you see it kind of look like it's pushed out ahead, this is likely the one that's producing even stronger wind. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to query that. This one's probably moving to the east at about 50 to maybe 60 miles per hour. 50 miles per hour to the north and east. So let's do the same thing. Let's put a storm track on this one. We'll get you updated with the latest on that. There's the line, probably that little curve there we want to make sure we get, and then moving to the east at about 50 miles per hour. This one's moving a little bit faster, so that's going to put it in Frankfurt in about 14 minutes. We'll have to keep an eye on that Frankfurt camera that we have. Lebanon in 23 minutes, Bunker Hill at 29 minutes. So we're going to watch cameras all along that, Flora as well, but Frankfurt, Lebanon, we've got traffic cameras we can watch there, and our Bunker Hill camera will certainly be able to get a good idea of when it moves through. As far as some of the other locations that we're tracking, I am not seeing any. Let me actually go back and get this so that we can move the map. I'm not seeing any tornado warnings at the moment anywhere nearby.
Nope.
I'm going to go down to the other end of the line, see if there's anything there. A couple of thicker outlines to these thunderstorms. This is where the strongest of the winds are. Was definitely seeing some considerable thunderstorms, and then moving through looks like the southern part of Missouri here. We've got a couple of tornado warnings that have been popping up. And then farther to the south, we're almost to the Gulf Coast at this point. You can certainly see how far this system extends. We're down along the Mississippi River. That's what you see right there. And then all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We're in Fort Polk, Texas, or right on the line there for Texas, yeah, because this is it's Lake Pontchartrain, and this is the Gulf Coast. So this is a huge system. And we'll get right back to Indianapolis just to show you that whole line of storms that's pushing through. Anything new, Sean, that you see popping up that's got you concerned? I'm actually pleased with how quiet, relatively, that this is compared to maybe what we were concerned about.
I was about to post on my Facebook page that yes, so far, so good. With that said, we still have a little ways to go, but thus far we have had no reports in our viewing area of severe wind just yet. Now, this line goes all the way down. Now, I will tell you, I was just looking at, and I'm going to switch over to the radar out of Evansville.
It's that little squiggle southwest of
Bloomington. Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's a function of that the line is closer to the radar site down there. So, in general, the wind velocity was looking a bit stronger down there. But again, I think it's just because we're getting lower sampling versus higher sampling with the Indianapolis radar. Let me just take off some of the products here. I just want to do a query on some of the wind velocity coming into the radar site. So that's not overly impressive, at least what we're querying there by the radar. So far our wind, what do we have? We had like a 52 and 51 in Lafayette. I mean, that's technically below severe limits. Now, again, and one thing to point out with this, and I've got lightning turned on, but this is not going to be one of those, loud, stormy nights. This is going to be a burst of wind with downpours that will be moving through your area probably pretty quickly. So the time that it's over you is going to be short in duration, and the time that it's in our state relatively is going to be short as well. So that's the camera there in Frankfurt, where we're just now beginning to get into that portion of the line.
It's probably got about 10 minutes, maybe not even 10 minutes before it gets through there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's at the I-65 Frankfurt exit.
Okay.
Of course, Frankfurt's a little farther east than this. If you can pop up radar, my radar, and I'll show you where that camera is in relation. So we're talking. Hang tight here. So we're talking right here, and then there's the town of Frankfurt. So it still has a little bit to go. But again, let's hope the trend that we've seen continues. I mean, that would be fantastic. If we can get out of this thing with just some 50-mile-per-hour gusts versus a lot of 60s and a few 75 and 80s, that would be optimal. We just can't tell you how this is all going to shake out. We know the wind field in advance is still robust, but again, I just want you to be aware that when this thing gets over you, don't expect that there's going to be a lot of thunder and lightning. It's just not, that's not the setup that we're dealing with here. Here's the vantage point from downtown. If you live around the metro area, we're thinking in the probably the 10:30 to 11 p.m. range, and then east of the metro area probably by midnight, and then into Ohio more than likely by 2 a.m. But we still have a lot of tracking to do between now and then, and we have to monitor the radar. We have to look for areas of rotation along the line. Thus far, we haven't seen a whole lot that is piquing our interest at this point in time. Now that could certainly change, but right now, I mean, gosh, Rob, I mean, it's more just kind of, again, we're okay. Believe me. Let's hope this continues, because this would be the kind of the best case scenario for us. I still am a little concerned that, again, some trees that might have held up the last couple of days might throw in the towel on this line, even with 45 to 50 mile per hour wind, because the soils are so saturated too. So we could see these things, and so that'll be something to watch as well.
Yeah, and I've also been watching some of the areas down to the south on that little kink that you showed here in just a moment. New severe thunderstorm warning has just popped up on the screen, so let's get the new information with that. Let's pop that one up, get you what to expect. This also will have the tornado possible wording, but the wind speed here still stays at 60 miles per hour. To be honest, this was expected. This is the one that's moving out of Tippecanoe County. This is now going to include Carroll, Clinton, Howard, and Tipton. That one is for the line that's continuing to progress to the east, includes Kokomo as well. Real quick, and I'm going to get in real close and show you some street level tracking here, but I want to mention a couple of things. I've been looking at some of the wind speeds with this, and some of these bright colors, I'm going to try to query them. Now, keep in mind, the radar may be looking into the upper levels of the atmosphere, but I have a feeling we're going to see some impressive numbers pop up here. 72 mile per hour, that's in the mid levels of the atmosphere. That's what it's sampling as that line of storms rolls through. Farther to the south from there, I'm seeing kind of the same signature in the next system that I think we're going to have to watch. I was just seeing if there was a little speck of a couplet that was starting to pop up there, but thankfully it was not. I've also noticed it down here, maybe close to Vincennes. I saw it just a moment ago. Yeah, there's a little bit of wind gust there. Let me query that just to show you some of the numbers that it's trying to spit out. Now, it's querying the mid-levels of the atmosphere, the lower levels of the atmosphere, and it's picking up some 50, 60 mile per hour gusts.
Got a 54 at Vincennes.
Okay. As
ASOS.
ASOS, okay. Yep. Let me actually, I think I may have that in my system. Let me see if I can get there and show you that. Let me see if I can go back and put that
just
on the
came
screen.
in, by the way.
You said in Vincennes?
Yep.
Let me see if I can take you down there, if that one will pop up. There it is, 54 right there. So that's as the line moved through. The other thing, Sean, I was looking at is there's a little bit of a notch there just east of Vincennes. So that one has me a bit concerned. that's there going to be a little bit of rotation that may start to try to pop up here. If we're going to watch for rotation, that's where I'd most be concerned about it.
Near Bicknell?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah. Let me start north, and then I'm going to come back down to the south. I'm going to get you in street level, and we'll track where all of this is moving through. Let's get in real close just to show you street level by street level. And I'm going to keep the wind speeds on there just so we can have those as a reference point. The town names aren't listed, but we'll be able to tell as we get in just a little bit closer. In fact, let me just see if I can get some town names to turn on. It may lose my wind speed, but that's fine. I'd rather have the town names on. There's the strongest of this part of the storm, probably some 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts that's moving through right now. Eel, Deer Creek, Galveston, Denver, Peru here, that's what we're looking at. And I'm going to track, this side was moving north and east, essentially east at about 50 miles per hour. So we'll do that. We'll take this, we'll track this 50 miles per hour. We'll take it to the east, and I should have enough room to get to 50. There we go. So this is going to put it in Peru in 24 minutes, so 10:25 or so. This is going to put it at Potawatomi Point at 8 minutes. This is going to put it at Bunker Hill 23 minutes. We had that plotted a little bit earlier, but I think the northern part of this storm has slowed down while this part remains at about 50 miles per hour. From there, let's take you a little farther to the south. Let's keep moving down the line. And as we go, if I see anything that looks interesting, we may dive in and look at some of the storm relative velocities. Here's the other severe thunderstorm warning that now includes Frankfurt. Very quickly, while I've got it on my mind, I'm going to go to that camera and just take a look. Was that on 2 or 1? Do you happen to know? I think this might be that camera. That one's got a good bit of a shake to it as well. Let me go to the other NDOT camera just to pop it up, just to see what we're looking at here. This is the Frankfurt camera that Sean was mentioning a little bit earlier. Still some shake. Some of these traffic cameras do have a good bit of shake with the, once the winds pop up over 30, 35 miles per hour, we're continuing to see that. Let me go back to the radar just to put the reflectivity back on. There's again the severe thunderstorm warning that is still in place. It does include Frankfurt. Farther to the south from there, here's Lebanon. You've got some time, and this part of the storm system that's moving through isn't as strong as that line to the north. The line to the north is going to have the quick burst of winds as it pushes through. You still will have some heavy rain, and as Sean said, there's not a lot of lightning, so don't expect that. Farther to the south and west, we're looking at Brazil. This is now still continuing to move through Terre Haute, pushing down Interstate 70. Farther south from there, Clay City, you've got about maybe 15, 20 minutes or so before the southern end of this line moves your way. This is not tornadic at the moment, but we do have one little kink in this line that bears watching. Because I've said that, let's go to the velocity just to track what we're looking at here when it comes to any type of couplet. I'm not seeing anything there that has me concerned, just some gusty winds, nothing that's looking like it's got any amount of significant rotation. Still has the tornado possible wording, and we're going to continue to watch it, but it is much better than we were looking at just a little bit earlier when these were into Illinois. These certainly have not shown the amount of rotation that they were dealing with. Definitely have some gusty winds. When I use the Indianapolis radar, you can see it switches that color because it's sampling, and I'll put this on the map, it's sampling the strong winds from the Indianapolis radar. I have a feeling we're going to look at some 60 to 70 mile per hour numbers here. It says -10, but I think maybe the color table is off on where I'm looking at it from this monitor. It's looking up high in the atmosphere. As far as the current wind gusts that we're looking at, 37 mile per hour wind gusts in the last hour at the airport. I don't have the Vincennes number on this graphic, but you can see it was 55 miles per hour. That happened since midnight. Again, just looking at several of our cameras just to keep an eye on what's been moving through. There's the north side again that we're tracking. Noblesville, you've got some good moderate rain coming down, but it's not the heaviest of the rain, which is probably going to be here within another, I'd say probably about an hour or so. What's going to happen is, as we're now at 10:05 this evening, meteorologist Robb Ellis along with meteorologist Sean Ash, as we get closer and closer to our 11 o'clock newscast, we'll have to step away for a moment, reset for our newscast, and then we'll have our newscast here live on WTHR+. As that happens, again, don't go anywhere. We're just going to reset while we get ready for that newscast to set up for it, and then you can watch our newscast. And if we have more severe thunderstorm warnings, as we probably will, later into the evening after the newscast, we are going to be right here on WTHR+ until the bulk of this moves through. And it has slowed down a little bit. We were thinking by 10 p.m. we would see most of this in this city, and It's still not quite here just yet, Sean.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, it has kind of slowed a bit. And, one thing as we look at the radar too, and I've got storm reports on my radar for the last 6 hours. We haven't had anything west of or east of Champaign. So that's, again, that's a decent trend. I hope that continues. We did have some storm reports out of Champaign from earlier this evening. If you guys want to switch over to my box there on 4, thank you. But this is from 8:05. That was a 51 mile per hour report. So there's a sizable gap from those storm reports to where this line is. Now, I want to show you a couple of cameras that will be of importance here. One is going to be so this is in Brazil, all right, and the wave of rain, and I'm just going to call it that because, again, we don't have a lot of thunder with it. The wave of rain just to the west of there. The other camera we have is going to be a little difficult to see until we get some cars pass by, but this is in Sullivan County. You see it shaking just a little bit, but it is within the rain axis. And so let's go and show you the radar in relation to where both of those cameras are. You can see, and we do have some rumbles of thunder. We got some pops of thunder near Bicknell and Washington. So there's Sullivan. And then Rob mentioned this bow signature, the little kink here that we'll be watching closely. That's lifting to the northeast toward Bloomfield. Why do we watch that? Because on those bows, sometimes you can get a little enhancement of spin. Let's see if the radar is showing anything. Nothing that's crazy sticking out, but it is where we would look for areas of quick rotation. I should also point out, if you are behind this line, your threat of severe weather is done. And that would include Lafayette now, we can give you the all clear. Warren counties, Benton counties, you're done. So if you're watching us there and you want to go to bed without worrying about anything, you can. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to get smacked in the face with some snow showers and possibly some snow squalls. I know.
It's so cruel, isn't it? I mean, it's.
And I know that is kind of a difficult concept to grasp going from where we were this afternoon. But this storm is a heck of a storm. And we've got the blizzard and we've got the feet of snow that's falling across the UP. We're going to have, the temperature, the big temperature drop here, okay? But behind this line, you're done. You're done for the night. East of it, you still have to be mindful that additional severe thunderstorm warnings and at least the potential is there for 60 mile per hour gust. And we're just going to have to wait and see how this behaves as it continues to progress across the state here. We still got probably another 3 hours before we can get this into near the Ohio line. So in the city, probably is looking more, in the metro area, I should say, is probably looking more like an 11p now. Did you see what the latest, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just do it on the air. I was going to see what the latest speed was. But
East at 50 was the northern end of the line, but the southern end of the line, I'd say, I mean, it had 45 earlier, but I think it's probably going even slower than that.
Yeah, so let's do this. I like to do this sometimes. I'll just draw a line here where we are, and let's just go back, and then we can, this is an hour worth of data. So there you go. I've got it at 40 miles per hour on the radar. So with that said, let's do a track at 40 on this. And if you're just hopping into our coverage, we're going to be doing this coverage until this line can get to the east of us. So here's a sampling of locations. I'm going to tweak this a little bit. I'm going to take it out 90 minutes, and I'm going to throw up some different locators on the map here. So that's at 40 miles per hour. If that speed holds, it could speed up a little bit, but this is ballpark numbers here. So Bloomington, roughly at 11 o'clock. Again, if it holds at 40 miles per hour. Plainfield at about 11:15. Brownsburg about 11:12. Now, what kind of shape is it? And when it gets there, that is to be determined. Does it strengthen a little bit or not? I mean, I'm telling you, so far, this is hopefully a best case scenario for us.
I am noticing a couple of things, Sean, and I want to speak to those if I can.
Sure.
Come back to my computer, because I have noticed they have upgraded some of the warnings in the southern part of the state. So let's kind of reset the stage here. Areas to the south, I want to take you to this. So this is the Linton camera, courtesy of DNR, Indiana DNR. It's one of the wildlife refuges there. Really seeing some heavy rain come down right now and some gusty winds. The reason I'm pointing that out is because National Weather Service, if you'll look at this, look at the larger picture, blizzard warnings to the west. These severe thunderstorm warnings have a little bit of a darker orange outline. That's the tornado possible wording. These are significantly darker. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because in the southern part of the state, the winds are even stronger, and they've actually put some considerable wording on some of the severe thunderstorm warnings in the southern part of the state. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down there and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Before I do that, let me actually click this. Our alert banner here should turn these into auto-queried warnings. As I go to the south, here's the first severe thunderstorm warning that, by the way, has the tornado possible wording. Tornado possible, it's radar indicated. Farther to the south we go. As we get to this severe thunderstorm warning, it also has the tornado possible wording. Notice how the outline changes color a little bit. But watch when I go a little farther to the south and we get to this severe thunderstorm warning. That one's significantly different because this is a considerable severe thunderstorm warning. What is the difference, you may be asking? Well, it's all about the wind speed that we're looking at. And of course, I would click the wrong button there. But what I want to show you is that that particular warning that we're looking at is going to have slightly higher wind speeds with it. Instead of the 58 mile per hour base wind speeds, this one is likely going to have 70 mile per hour wind speeds, and it will pop up here on the screen for you. There's the 70 mile per hour tagging with it, and that's how they kind of changed a little bit of the threats with some of these severe thunderstorm warnings, because not all are created equal. It appears now that the strongest of the winds are going to be in the southern part of the state. We have not seen that translate to areas farther to the north. Let's hope it stays that way. When it comes to the velocities, I have been looking at some of these, and I mentioned this a bit earlier. First of all, there's a couple of little notches here that we'll have to keep our eye on. I've also been watching some of the stronger wind speeds just in the southern part of our viewing area. I'm just moving the map until it switches. You'll see what I'm looking at. That's exactly what I'm looking at right there. I said this a bit earlier, and I couldn't get the right query on there, but I want to do this. Some of these areas of this bright blue that we're looking at, 28 to I've seen as high as 80 mile per hour winds that were popping up here just to the south in some of these areas where that's where the storm is going to be heading into. It's going to be heading into these areas, and it may ingest some of that into the storm, or at least able to be pushing it down to the surface. And that's why I think they've got this considerable tagging on these severe thunderstorms. What does it all mean? Well, it just means that the winds in the southern part of the state are stronger, and we're likely going to continue to see that race across the state. Luckily, I have not seen any concerns with any rotation within the part of the line that's moving through our viewing area. There are a few areas that we're going to continue to watch. Here's the northern part from Kokomo, say up to Peru. Again, it doesn't look that bad. It looks. Go ahead, John.
Had a report out of Bicknell, 40 to 45.
Yeah, and it's that southern area that really has, I think, the strongest of the winds that go along with it. Again, there is a new severe thunderstorm warning that's been put into place by the National Weather Service that does have that tornado possible wording that includes Howard County. It's also going to include Tipton County, Clinton County, and Carroll County. That one's going to go until 10:45. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, keep in mind, approaching 10:15, live coverage here for severe thunderstorms. We don't have any tornado warnings at the moment, but we're just providing you updates of what we're seeing as these continue to move to the east. Very quickly, let me just check some cameras here. We'll take a look at what's going on. WTHR tower camera there. Let's look at the INDOT camera. This is in Vigo and Clay County, so this is that area where the slower end of the storm over near Terre Haute is still producing some rain, but it looks like it may have passed through this location. And then also our other INDOT camera here, we'll take a look at that one and just show you what we're looking at there. Maybe it was the other one that I clicked.
No, hang on, hang tight, my friend.
He's swapping it for me.
Yeah.
Let me go over to the radar just to bring the radar back in. We'll look at reflectivity while some of the cameras are being adjusted here. Have this move away, and then we'll be able to see what we're looking at. The southern end of this, again, this is the northern edge, so we're looking at Lebanon here. Here's Indy. This part of the storm doesn't look so bad. We still have this line to get through, and it may be producing some gusty winds, but they don't look as strong as maybe what this was when it was over into Illinois. I actually like the way this is looking, that it's not necessarily as strong as it once was. Yeah, this has a signature that doesn't really tell me that there's a lot to be concerned about. Even with the strong winds, I don't know. We'll see if they even allow the severe thunderstorm warnings to move east to be continued.
I'm telling you, partner, I like what I'm seeing in the radar. I don't want to jinx anything, but you got to call it the way you see it. And right now, there's really nothing that just screams this is going to do wind damage right now. Now, at this moment, again, we'll have to wait and see, you know, as it progresses to the east. And I just can't give you an all clear on this. We're not going to do that. We've got a tornado watch. I mean, it's possible that we could still see some areas of rotation develop. That is something, but compared to about 3 hours ago, you know, I thought we would already have some damage reports in western Indiana. And thus far, where this has moved through in our viewing area, based on the reports that we're looking at, we haven't had any severe wind reports. In Lafayette, even the 54 mile per hour in Vincennes, that's sub-severe. The 40 to 45 in Bicknell, that's well below severe limits. So this is, so far, this is a best case scenario for us here. So again, if you're watching in Lafayette, you were under a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm gonna put the warnings back on. You're done. Your severe threat is over. Frankfurt, just about over. Kokomo under a severe thunderstorm warning. That continues until 10:45. Let's look at our shear rate product. And even that is not, you know, as robust as it was. So, you know, let's hope this trend continues. And this is just a rainmaker. So we do have a little more concentration of lightning, and Rob talked a bit about this on the southern end of the line. And we're talking outside of our viewing area, but now east of Washington, heading toward Lagodi, but moving into Bloomfield. But we'll see. We'll see if we get a new warning on this. They're sampling the shear rate, and again, not anything that's robust right now. So this is all best case scenario for us here, with the caveat that until the line can get east of a certain location, there's still the possibility of a severe gust. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two areas I think we have to watch. That northern line, which has the kind of the bookend vortex into it, the northern end, we could get a little spin up there. And then also there's a little kink southwest of Bloomington that we'll have to watch for what we're looking at here. Bigger picture, and you can really get a good idea of the kind of potency of this system. Severe storms rolling through now. We have a tornado watch that's in place currently. This tornado watch, that's all of the yellow that you see. Then back behind this, we've got blizzard warnings for a significant number of states. We've got wind advisories because of the strong winds on the backside of this. Farther to the north, they've got severe thunderstorm watches that are in place. Look at the wind advisories. They extend almost all the way to the East Coast. And then behind this, we're talking about the possibility of freezing conditions. So freeze warnings have been issued for some of the southern states. I mean, it is real kaleidoscope of watches and warnings because of this system. Of course, the immediate concern are the severe thunderstorm warnings. And from this wider view, you can really get an idea of the different types of warnings that the National Weather Service is issuing here. There's a couple that have this kind of orange, light orange outline, which are the tornado possible ones. The ones we're watching for a little bit of spin up, but you can see the new warnings that they've issued right here does not have that wording to it. It's just a base severe thunderstorm warning, and it still could produce some 60-mile-per-hour winds. Once you go south from there, you start to get into some of this heavier definition to some of the severe thunderstorm warnings, and this is where the National Weather Service has started to put some tagging on these, as we expected today, that we could have 70 or even 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and that's where the bulk of the severe weather is. This is where we thought it was going to be, but we knew we'd be in close enough proximity that it wouldn't take too much to get that to mix down to near the surface. So still watching several of these severe thunderstorm warnings. Here's the first. We'll go through the numbers here. This one's going to be Carroll, Clinton, Howard, and Tipton County. That one's going to go until 10:45 p.m. 60-mile-per-hour maximum, or I should say gusty winds are what we're expecting. I did want to mention, even though this goes until 10:45, at some point we'll have to cut out of here real quick so we can get ready for our 11 o'clock show and then pop back on at 11 o'clock for our 11 p.m. newscast, and then we'll pick this back up on the other side of that as we track the storms continuing to roll through the state. Of course, if there is a tornado warning, we'll roll right past all of that. But at the moment, from what we're seeing, Sean and I are looking at this, we think the threat is certainly weakening, but it's not done just yet. But it's certainly encouraging from what we're seeing. Tornado possible wording also with the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place for Clay, Greene, Park, Putnam, Sullivan, and Vigo. That's quite a long warning that extends all the way down the entire line, the southern end of this. We said it's kind of in two sections. Here's the first section to our west. This is the one that's kind of pretty linear. And then also the next batch is a little farther to the north. I'll actually move the map so we can see that one, just because I want to be able to move the map there. There's a little kink right there. We'll have to watch that. Every now and then you can, it's like putting your oar into, if you're in a rowboat, you put your oar into the water and sometimes you get the little vortex that spins up in the water. That's exactly what's happening here. This is pushing out ahead of that, and every now and then on the north side, you can get some spin ups. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but it's the one thing that we're watching right now, and it's the area of most concern. Also, the next area of most concern is this little S that's starting to form here. One part of the line is getting out ahead of it. This part of the line has been fairly slow. If that can happen, you can also get a little bit of spin right along that area. And of course, that's just to the south and west of Bloomington. So Bloomington is the area we're going to continue to watch when it comes to that. And of course, right now, conditions in Bloomington, you do have some rain that's coming down, but we are seeing heavy rain at the moment. And really not a lot of lightning. We haven't seen much lightning with any of this storm as it's pushed on by. There's a little bit of a wider view. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the National Weather Service as maybe another 30 minutes goes by. They may drop all of these if they don't feel like it's reaching the criteria of the 58-mile-per-hour threshold for severe thunderstorm warnings. It's certainly raining on the west side of Indy, but it's not the heaviest of the rain if it makes it, if it survives the trek across the area. As far as the storm relative velocities are concerned, I'm just going to sweep through these very quickly. We'll just kind of move around the map, see if there's anything that raises concern. At the moment, I'm not seeing it. This is that area where we would see a little bit of a spin up if we were concerned. Not seeing it at the moment, but I'm going to continue to watch it. Then also, as we go farther to the south, we'll watch that other little area. We can see some of the severe thunderstorm warnings beginning to come into view. And then looking at that little notch right there, I'd watch this area right here. This is where we said there was that little area where there was a little kink in the line, as we've been talking about. I want to get in a little bit closer to that. There's a new scan coming in, so yeah, it'll be good. If there's any concern, Sean, this is the area I'd be looking at. This is going to be between Newberry and Fair Play. There's a little bit of a bright spot here showing some stronger winds, but then a little bit of a slowdown to the west. It's sampling winds of 59 miles per hour. Now that's up in the atmosphere a bit. It's not at the surface, but that's what the radar is reading, and it's not going to take much for those very heavy rains to push that down to the surface. Meanwhile, a little bit further behind that, we've got 29-mile-per-hour winds. So there's a little bit of minor circulation here. If I was going to watch for any circulation, that is the area that I'd be watching. And again, we're talking about south and west of Bloomington. And that's a concern because this would be moving to the east towards Bloomington. It's very, very, very subtle, but that's the one area I'd be watching. When you look at it on reflectivity, you'll clearly see what I'm talking about. There's a little bit of an S shape. It's where this makes a little bit of a turn back to the west. And here comes the new scan, so we'll be able to get a good look at it. Still looking pretty impressive. In fact, I think this side of the storm may be picking up in intensity just a little bit. I'm wondering if a new radial velocity scan just came in as well along with that. Let's see if there's anything new that pops up with that. There's our live Bloomington camera. You can see it's still raining. And one of the things I think maybe has happened is some of the rain out ahead of this has helped to stabilize things a little bit.
You beat me to the punch, partner.
Go ahead.
You stole my thunder, and we haven't had much thunder tonight. Yeah, I kind of, that's kind of where I've been drifting a little bit because this is an interesting situation. And if you guys can switch over. So we hit mid-70s today, not a record in Indianapolis, 74. The record was 80, way above average. But what Robb's talking about, and this is an interesting radar perspective, is that ahead of the squall line, we have rain that's developed. Now, we didn't have a whole lot of instability to begin with, but perhaps that is taking what little bit was in advance of it, because usually sometimes with a squall line, you're dry until that squall line hits you, and that's not the case with this situation. And then if you look at the behind the line, in those storm reports, those little dots that you see in Illinois, some of those now are over 3 hours, well, at least a couple of hours old. So why I'm showing you that is that we haven't had a lot of reports come in since Champaign. Now, oh boy, I do want, hang with me here. I do want to show you what's happening upstream as we go from outer space back close to Illinois here. It is 40 degrees in Champaign.
Wow.
It is 53 in Lafayette. And then you see what's happening with the snow there. And I show you that because, again, we're going to go from those 70s I was just showing you, and it's going to be hard to really understand this until tomorrow morning. But man almighty, when this thing comes through here, it is going to be a big smack in the face. So I want to just show you future track 13 to, again, by the time we get closer to 1 or 2 o'clock, any threat we have of rotation or 60+ mile per hour wind, which at this point, I'm of the opinion, coming into this, I thought we would have a lot of 60 mile per hour reports. I thought we'd probably have a lot of damage. I got to tell you, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the number of 60 mile per hour reports will likely be few and far between, and I'm 100% okay with that. Some forecasts don't play out as you thought, and that's kind of where I'm going. Now, I feel much more confident on the cold side of this, definitely playing out. We will be in the lower 30s, if not 20s, by as early as 7 a.m. Temperatures will likely fall throughout the day, and we will have numerous snow showers around, but there's potential that we're going to have snow squalls in some areas. So, heck, Rob, we might have a better chance of a snow squall warning with this system than we do having a whole lot of 60+ mile per hour gusts, which, by the way, want to show you, these are the peak gusts from today. However, a lot of these occurred in the afternoon during the high wind warning, when again we had a bunch of wind damage just from the pressure gradient winds. I'm going to switch over to radar. Sorry guys, just hang with us here. So I'm going to switch back over to my radar product. So again, this is the rain that we're talking about that's preceding the narrow band of heavier rain, which if we do get gusts that could do some damage, that's where they would occur. Thus far, we're just seeing sub-severe wind right now, a trend that, again, I hope continues. I'm going to get it a little bit closer here and just kind of look around. So that's what you got to do sometimes. But, you know, again, I feel a lot better about this. Just cannot, until this thing can get through, we just can't give you a 100% that you won't have wind, you know, some wind damage. But everywhere behind this band, your threat is done, okay? So I'll draw that line there. Brazil, Terre Haute, Linton, done. Done for the night. Move up the line here. Lafayette, done. Monticello, done. Logansport, done. We still have to kind of wait it out here in the metro area to see how this is going to, you know, shake out and whether or not we can get a localized severe gust out of this. But that, I believe, Rob, is what it would be, more of a localized situation versus more widespread. Just kind of looking back at the radar over the last hour. And yeah, I mean, we've got the rain that's falling over downtown right now. So it was always a very high wind shear, low instability environment. But then you take this rain and it takes away even that little bit of instability. So a trend that we're definitely monitoring, partner.
Okay, let's reset a little bit. We're coming up on 10:31. Meteorologist Robb Ellis and meteorologist Sean Ash here. We're going to do a few things. We're going to reset. We're going to let you know about all the watches and warnings that are in place at this hour. Come around 10:45 or so. Depending on how the radar looks, we're going to leave that. We're going to prep for our 11 p.m. show, and then we're going to come back to this at 11 p.m. for our newscast. Take you through the newscast. We'll take you through the rest of the night as long as there are severe thunderstorm warnings before they pass through the rest of the state. We do still have several that we are tracking. We have one here. It's on the north side. This is the one that we're tracking currently. This one is the one that's continued even as it crossed through into Indiana from Illinois. And that one is likely going to continue to move to the east, although it's really fallen apart. Really, as Sean was saying, things have weakened quite a bit here from the look that we were talking about. Now, to the north from there, this part of the line is certainly still strong enough and does still have a severe thunderstorm warning there. We'll see if this severe thunderstorm warning will continue to move on as the line progresses to the east. Couple of things I'm noticing there, Sean, and I'm going to try to take a quick little look at it while we're here, is there's a couple of little squiggles there south and west of Indianapolis that make me a little concerned. Thankfully, doesn't look very interesting on the radial velocities, but in the reflectivity, there's still a little bit of these little notches that pop up, and anytime I see that in this type of environment, it makes me pause a little bit, say, okay, let's check it out, see what's happening, but so far, we're still looking pretty good. In the southern part of the state, there are some huge storms moving through with some gusty winds. Talk about wind damage. They may be seeing wind damage in the southern part of the state as I've looked at a couple of these, and they are producing probably some 70-mile-per-hour winds as they move on by. Huge storm, as Sean's been saying. Behind this, the temperatures are already dropping. Even in our viewing area, the temperatures are already dropping. And I think once your severe thunderstorm warnings move by, if you are under one of those, your threat for severe is done, and then it's just free fall for temperatures because these areas are dealing with 50s, 40s, and I'll show you some temperature data here in just a moment. A good bit of rain out ahead of this in addition to the heaviest rain to the west. It's moving a little bit slower, so it may produce more rain, more runoff. We may have some areas that deal with maybe 1 inch or 2 inches of rain. There's the severe thunderstorm warnings, and in the southern part of the state, this one looks a little bit different, as you can tell, because it's got the considerable tagging where the winds are expected up to 70 miles per hour. Look at some of the wind gusts. They're still pretty breezy outside, 20, 30, 35 mile per hour wind gusts, but haven't seen very many that are higher than that. The couple that I have noticed that have been on the higher side are actually on the back side of this system. Let me do one thing real quick off camera, and then I'll come right back to camera, so don't take that away just yet. I just want to see if I have this that I can pop on and see if it'll pop up any additional wind gusts that I may have over into Illinois. It's not going to pop up any new ones because I haven't had anything that's been that significant here within the last maybe, I don't know, I'd say half hour or so. Current wind gusts that we're looking at right now, we've got 37 miles per hour. This is just within the last hour at Indianapolis. As far as the max for the day, Sean's been showing you a similar graphic here. 55 is the number we saw for Indy, 56 for Bloomington. I believe there was a 57 or 59 in Shelby County earlier in the day today. And then looking at some of our cameras that we've been watching, you can see some of the rain that's happening right now on the north side of Indy. Just a good, steady, soaking rain ahead of the line of severe storms. It's a Sunday night. It's getting close to 11 o'clock. Things are pretty quiet out there in Bloomington currently, and a different view from Bloomington will show you some of the rain coming down on IU's campus as we look at overall a fairly quiet night ahead of that line.
Oh, by the way, that camera points northeast, someone told me on Twitter.
Northeast. Thank you very much for that. That's good to know. Sean showed you a graphic similar to this. It's 65 still in Indy. It's 70 in Seymour. But you can see the colder air that's on the way. And then in a little bit closer, you can see most of our reporting sites. There's a 52 in Crawfordsville. Keep in mind the front has pushed through there, at least the line of storms has, and probably all of these locations. Once you say goodbye to the 60s, you are done with the 60s, at least for 3 or 4 days, until finally the temperatures will warm back up. But as Sean said, once this moves by, in fact, I'm going to see if I can do this, see if I can move the radar over into Illinois. Look at the snow that's coming down in the western part of Illinois. It's snowing right now in Peoria. That's not too far away, and they're potentially looking at heavy snow coming down right now. So they were dealing with 70-degree temperatures as well. Springfield's still raining, but probably going to switch over to snow, and we expect that changeover to happen here overnight tonight by early morning. The morning commute may be a little bit tricky depending on how quickly those temperatures drop. Lindsay Monroe and Matt Standridge will have you covered in the morning with both weather and traffic. Noticing a couple of these squiggles. I'm going to keep an eye on them. I'm going to go back to the velocity because I want to make sure these aren't spinning up. Not seeing it. I like to see where things are going. Things are looking pretty good. Not much lightning with these. Sean was showing you this earlier. We'll see what the count is. 31 strikes of what's on the screen currently. Not much with lightning with the area to the north, although I have a feeling once we get into this part of the storm, there may be a little bit more lightning there. Again, we're way north here. We're north of Kokomo at this point. And you can see the next scan coming through. Still a pretty pronounced line north of Kokomo, but really across Indy right now, things are looking pretty good. And that's what this WTHR Plus allows us to do. We can walk you through the storms. We can show you some of these areas. And as this gets a little bit closer to Indy, we'll be able to get you in street by street. Let's do a little bit of that. We'll just kind of get in closer here to say Cloverdale. Well, this is about to move through on Interstate 70, just past 231 is what we're looking at here. Here's the line that's trying to approach. For the most part, this is heavy rain. It's already breezy. Once this heaviest of the rain moves through, it's probably going to pop your winds up to maybe around 40 to perhaps as high as 50 miles per hour. But the severe threat is waning. It's decreasing over time. But that's something we'll keep watching. Let me go back out to a larger view here. Let's get you back to the metro just to show you where we are. We'll see if we can get in a little bit wider and look at, there's Indy, there's the line that will probably impact Indy. And what I don't want to see is I don't want to see any of these areas to the west start to show that little bit of a kink, little bit of an S shape in the line, and thankfully we haven't seen much of that. We still do have the tornado watch that's in place. That's the areas in yellow. Is that a tornado warning to our north? I think it is. Yeah, not in our viewing area, but in the north part of Indiana, we're looking at a tornado warning that just fired. So does have me a little bit more concerned about still some spin in the atmosphere, and it looks like this is going to be on the north end, that bookend vortex that we were talking about. This is for Kosciuszko County until 11 p.m. Let me take you in close there, because I think this is on that northern end of that line, the stronger part of this line, and it has that, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I put it in the reflectivity mode.
Look by the town of Claypool.
Okay, and I believe since we do have, the radar is not too far off from there, we'll be able to get in pretty close and probably can see the signature. I will get in just a little bit closer. We're pretty close to the radar, so we should have a pretty good view of this. Oh yeah, look at that, it's right there. This is what they're looking at. Now, we had a similar signature farther to the south. It wasn't maybe quite this pronounced, but this is the area that we were looking at. I'm going to display some of the plots I'll see if I can clean up the screen just a little bit. See how bright those pixels are right there? I have a feeling those are going to be in the 50 to 60 mile per hour range. Yeah, 55 is what we're looking at. Meanwhile, right next to it, this should be much lower. This should be 13 miles per hour. It's the same thing as if you had winds going in different directions. These winds are going one's going slower than the other. And you can see a new radar update came through, and this one is probably going to be spiking up a little bit higher than that. In fact, I'll see if I can do a little bit of a box query here, see if it'll allow me to do it. It's going to take the whole box query. I want to see if I can get that brightest pixel right there, 54 miles per hour. That's what the radar is estimating. Now keep in mind, this is up a little bit in the atmosphere, but it still implies a bit of a circulation there. Having said that, let's do a couple of other things. Let's also move this camera. We're going to get close to where this is moving through because this is going to be approaching Pearston. This is much farther to the north. This is out of our viewing area. This is in northern Indiana. I want to also query this, see if I can get a speed on this. It's probably moving to the northeast at about 50 miles per hour, but we'll put the information on the screen. Just going to get the speed of this moving northeast at 65 miles per hour, so significantly faster. I just want to zoom out just a bit because what I want to do is I want to be able to draw a cone on here and maybe show some of the locations. Maybe folks know someone here. It's very well defined. You can see where that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. And then this is going to be moving to the north and east. Well, I may need to zoom out just a little bit more. I need a little bit more runway because this is moving so quickly. We'll take this little cone tool because we want to talk about that little speck right there. Moving north and east at about 65 miles per hour. This is going to put it in these locations for you. This is going to put it in Pearston in about 8 minutes, the elementary school there at 8 minutes. This is going to move through Thorn Creek in 20 minutes. Indiana University Biological Station, that'll be at 20 minutes, and Port Mitchell in 25 minutes. If that little circulation holds together, and it is just this very relatively weak circulation that we're watching, but it's close enough to the radar that we think that that's probably a pretty good signal that it's watching, that the National Weather Service is keeping their eye on from that radar location. Anything else that you've seen with that, Sean? You might have had some other data while I was doing a little bit of tracking there that came along with it. Again,
no.
It's far to the north.
Yeah, it is way north, but it is, and I just posted this.
There's a similar one south of Bloomington. Now that we kind of know the signal that we're watching, we'll have to keep an eye on that one as well. I think when I look at reflectivity, you'll probably see the same thing. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, but I mean, basically, this is what we're left with. You know,
Yeah.
We're not going to have widespread wind damage. We will have these areas of rotation that will have to be monitored on the leading edge. Rob was pointing it out. This is our shear rate product. It cleans up a lot of that radar. There's Claypool, there's Winona Lake, there's Pearston. And that's about as strong as a signal as we've seen this evening. That's from the North Webster radar. Now, as we work southward, and then we get into more central Indiana, let me switch over to the Indianapolis radar here. You know, we don't have a lot of areas, you know, and again, as we've been saying, and now they're shaving it, you see, west of the line, that tornado watch is going to get shaved away very quickly. All right, so let me put the shear rate back on. So there's the line. West of it, severe threats over. That includes Rockville, Brazil, Jasonville, Linton, Bloomfield. But it's along that line where we still may get a few more severe thunderstorm warnings, or like you saw across north central Indiana, we could still have these little areas of rotation that will be enough in some spots that maybe we get another tornado warning or two before this thing gets out of the state here by 2 in the morning. But it is over the metro. It's closing in on the metro now as Rob's going to get prepared for the 11 o'clock newscast here. So we're going to wrap it up here on WTHR Plus. We're going to move over to Channel 13. We'll have coverage there, and then we'll be back on WTHR Plus after our newscast.